What a great pleasure to be here. I love visiting Scott Middle School. I've been here a number of times, and as was just told to you, you have great teachers here, you know it, you have great principals, and you are getting an education that's second to none in the country, which means, as I'm going to speak to you in a few minutes, you'll have plenty of opportunities to make a difference not only in your life, but in the lives of others. So let me kind of tell you, I'm going to check my cell phone for just a second. I realize that Mr. Knudsen could confiscate it, but I'm going to run the risk because I'm trying to get it. Here it is. It just came up. Last week when I was here, I came, as you know, maybe you didn't, your teacher knew.
I did share.
And I was all excited because the weekend before last, I was checking my emails on a Saturday, and I was a teacher. I began teaching in 1976, and I was just going through my emails, and I received an email from a student that I had in 1976. Quite frankly, I don't remember this student. I still don't. I'm trying to track him down. I will tell you, we've corresponded a little bit, but I don't remember him. He wasn't at Wilbur High School very long, where I was a social studies teacher. But I want to read this to you, because had I had this before my TEDx talk, it would have been a part of my message. But I think it's going to set the stage for today. Dear Dr. Joel, you may not remember me, but in the late 70s, I attended Wilbur Middle and High School. I had the good fortune of having you as a coach, a teacher, and a neighbor. Life at home for me then was very, very rough, and I had many dark days. And you helped me through some of those, as I suspect you have done for others as well. You may not remember, and I don't. We moved to Crete when I was a sophomore, and I often wondered what became of you as I got older. Well, the other day I decided to Google you, and I see you've had a great career, and I hope life also. Anyway, I just wanted to say thanks for making a difference in my life. I hope all is well with you, and keep influencing young minds as you did mine. And it was from Dan Clout, who is the publisher and owner of the Arizona Motorsports Connection in Phoenix. Again, I don't remember Dan, but what I remember is the power of teaching and the power of touching people's lives. And when I had the opportunity to talk at TEDx, which was one of the most nervous things I've ever done in my life, because I speak a lot professionally, and I speak to large groups, I speak to students, I speak to conferences, I do it a lot. But I was really nervous about TEDx because it was billed as the speech of your life, and it had to be message oriented. And I was thinking about my life and my career and the people who influenced me. And it all came together about a week before I had to give this speech, which is now on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you can Google my name on YouTube, or you can go to the TEDx site. But it all came to me when I started thinking about where I came from and what I've been so blessed and so fortunate to be able to do as a professional educator. Because let me tell you, neither one of my parents had a high school diploma. In my family growing up, my dad was a World War II veteran. He was a New York City policeman. My mother was a housewife. Education was something that you had to do because it was required. But there really wasn't any expectation in my family to be highly educated. And it was something that, quite frankly, I don't think I started school really wanting to be highly educated, because I was like every other kid. I loved sports. I loved the social interaction of school. But I had great teachers like you had that began tapping me on my shoulder as early as 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade. And they kept saying to me that you could do more with your life. And let me know if I could help. They didn't lecture me. They didn't teach me. They didn't threaten me. They didn't make fun of me. They weren't cynical people. They were just great coaches and great guides. And I found my way to Doane College from New York in Crete, Nebraska in 1972. Now imagine this. I had an accent from New York. A lot of people say it's a different language. It's water, dollar, quarter, talking to you over here. And I showed up with that accent in Crete, Nebraska, around all of the Nebraskans who say they're ours very nicely. And they make fun of the way I said my R's and how I talked with my hands and how everything was so fast-paced. And when I got to Crete, Nebraska, and I woke up that first morning, I looked out and I couldn't see any skyscrapers. And I didn't see any subway stations. or at mad taxi cab drivers. I just saw good, honest, earnest people who cared deeply about each other. And it began to change my life at Doane College. And so my father, who said to me, if you have to go to college, go, but come back and get on the police force. Because then if you're on the police force, I could be on his bowling team and his softball team. My dad was very competitive back in the day. And that was my goal. Go get a 4-year college degree and get back on the bowling team. But then I had somebody touch my shoulder again. And he said, what about teaching? What about working with young kids? And I go, wow, that's kind of far out. And he put me in a course, gave me an opportunity to go to Crete High School and do some volunteer work with kids. And all of a sudden I felt my life just changing dramatically. And what I didn't know how to do was to tell my father that I wanted to be a teacher. Because my dad didn't really like teachers, you see, because he didn't make it through high school. You know, teachers were kind of authoritarians. You know, people had rules. And you know, back in the day, if you didn't do well in school, you got washed out. But I knew I could change that. And so when I was finished at Doane College, I called my dad, and he drove out to Crete, Nebraska to my graduation, proud as a father could be. First college graduate in my entire family. And I said to my father, I said, Dad, I want to teach for 1 year. What do you want to do that for? You can bat third in the softball lineup. You can play shortstop. You know, you can learn what I did. We could be a father-son police team. You'll have a pension, and it's a good living. I go, Dad, I just did 4 years of college. I want to try a year of teaching. He said, okay, one and only one. And so I started teaching at Wilbur. Well, one turned to two. My father passed away. My mom had to get relocated. And I decided then that teaching was the profession that was going to make all professions in America possible. And I recognized at that point that the greatest contribution that I could give back to the people who helped me was to become a teacher and an educator and ultimately a principal and superintendent. And I can tell you that every single day that I go to work, I ask myself, actually at the end of the day, did we make a difference? And more often than not, we have. So a couple of things that I've done in my life that again, I didn't think of, they're not creative, but there are ways that you can do, you can begin to take stock of who you are and how you can contribute. The very first thing I did, I want to tell you about my guidance counselor in high school. My guidance counselor in high school was the greatest motivator in my life, but he was a negative motivator. And I can be motivated by being challenged. Not everybody can, but I could. And my guidance counselor, my beginning of my senior year, my mother had, because I decided I was going to try college, my mother had saved $200 for me to go to college somewhere. And she showed up on the biggest day of a senior mom's life, and that's when you meet with your guidance counselor and they craft the rest of your future. And my mother showed up. She got there early. She was wearing a pretty dress, and probably a new dress at the time. And she was really proud of me. She couldn't wait to tell the counselor I was going to go to college. I remember walking into the counselor's office, and the counselor wheeled around, and he said he was late. He had a cup of coffee. His shirt was out of his pants. I mean, he was just I was just a number. Like my high school, by the way, was about 4,000 students. So he said to my mom, what do we have in store for your son? And my mother said, we want him to go to college. He took his glasses off, and he wheeled around, and he said, you know, college is not for him. You don't have the resources to go to college. And quite frankly, he didn't have the grades. And my mother started crying right then. And I became motivated at that point to become a college student. But here's where I thanked Mr. Mertens every single step of the way, and other teachers in my life. As I began to grow and develop as a student and as a person, every college degree I ever received, I sent him a copy of it. Okay? And here's what I got the first time from him, which was 4 years after I left high school. And it was a form letter, and it said, always knew you could do it. You've made MacArthur High School proud. Congratulations. Now, I knew that he sent that to everybody, but to me, I wanted him to know, and in my way, with a handwritten note, he touched my life. He touched my life because he told my mother that I wasn't going to make it in college. I got my master's degree. I sent him another one. I got the same form letter back. And then I got my doctorate degree. About 10 years later, I sent it to him again, saying, thank you so much. It goes back to 1975, when you challenged me to be the best I could be. And he came back to me from a nursing home. He was in a nursing home at the time. And it wasn't a form letter, it was handwritten. And he said, "Congratulations for making a difference in the lives of so many." And then I began thinking, okay, what about my elementary teachers? What about my high school teachers? What about my coaches? What about my college professors? What about the people that I could begin to take stock of that did for me in ways that they'll never realize because I never said anything to them? And it goes back to this letter this email from Dan Clout. And I started writing notes to people who made a difference in my life and inspired me. And I began to realize that when you say thank you to folks, you have an opportunity to really then give definition to who you are. And so as a teacher, as a coach, as a principal, as a superintendent, as a member of a lot of boards in the community, as a person who's been very, very fortunate to be where I am today, I'm constantly looking for and challenging people to look for ways to, one, make ourselves better, because the better we become, the better we feel about ourselves, the more things that we're able to accomplish, the greater the impact we can have on others. I love to talk a lot about the fact that we learn the most when we fail. That's certainly true of my life. I'm guessing of teachers' lives here. Too often, as I said in the TEDx message, people don't like to take risks. They don't go out for certain teams because they just don't think they're good enough, or they might not feel like they're smart enough, or they're intimidated by the other people that are part of it. And when they don't take those risks, they shut doors of opportunities. And the most successful people that I know in life are the people who said, you know what, there isn't anything that I can't try and accomplish. And guess what? If I fail, that's going to be some of the best learning I've ever had. Because I failed plenty of times in my life, as most people have. But I also know that from each one of those failures I learned. And then when opportunities present themselves to be a volunteer, to give back, to do something randomly that nobody would expect. I mean, imagine, how many have a little brother or a little sister at home? How many would trade them off tomorrow if they could? I don't know if you're being really honest. See, most people with little brothers or little sisters, they kind of think, they get special treatment. The rules are different for the younger ones than they are for you. And not a lot of truth in that, but that's just a commonly held belief. Imagine if you went home today and you said to your mom and your dad, you know what? Beginning today, I'm going to develop a much more positive relationship with my brother or sister. Or think about this. The next time you're out somewhere publicly and there's somebody behind you that's getting ready to go in the same door that you are, what if you stood there and held that door open for them and wished them a nice day? What if sometime, just randomly, as you're walking around your neighborhood and you're getting ready to go to that basketball game or that soccer match, and you see an elderly person sweeping their walk or their stoop, and you just stop and say, "Can I help you for a second?" 30 seconds, 1 minute. Think of two things. One, what did that mean to the person who you just did something random to? And secondly, what does it mean to you as you develop as a person of character? What have you taught yourself, and what are you about to model to other people? That's what makes the world a better place. And that's your challenge going forward, is to do the very, very best that you can. Be the best student, be the best son or daughter, be the best athlete, the best musician. Work and work and work to take advantage of this time that you have right now in a great school like Scott. And bring as much into yourself as you can. But if you really want to change the world, start moving outside of that and do for others as we do to you.